Imagine if I told you that Iran, the contemporary nation, holds a significant place in the Bible's sweeping narrative of prophecy and global events. While discussions about the Bible often highlight Israel, Egypt, and Babylon, it's vital to recognize that Iran, known as Persia in ancient times, is not just one more empire, but a nation specifically mentioned in prophecies that shaped the destiny of God's chosen people. Iran's biblical roots are more intriguing than many realize. From the lineage of Noah to the reign of Cyrus the Great, the history of the Iranians is intertwined with some of the most crucial moments in biblical history. What's truly astonishing is how God used Persia, a nation of pagan rulers, to deliver Israel, rebuild the temple, and fulfill prophecies spoken centuries before they unfolded. This exploration delves into how the Bible unveils the origin of the Iranian people, their rise to power, and their central role in shaping both the Old Testament and future prophetic visions. Prepare yourself for a journey that will transform your understanding of Iran, not merely as a modern nation, but as a pivotal player in God's unfolding plan for the world. To trace Iran's biblical roots, we must revisit the story of Noah and his descendants after the Great Flood. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the ancestors of all nations according to Genesis 10. One of Japheth's sons was Madai, the ancestor of the Medes, who later allied with the Persians to form the Medo-Persian Empire, one of history's most powerful empires. Descendants of Madai, the Medes, settled in what would become modern-day Iran. The Persians, emerging from the same region, would later rise to prominence, but both shared a common Iranian ancestry. Thus, according to the Bible, the ancestors of the Iranians trace back to Japheth through Madai, placing them in the biblical narrative from the dawn of post-flood history. This connection establishes the Iranians' significant role in the history of God's people. Fast forward centuries, and we witness the emergence of Persia, a kingdom that played a crucial role in the biblical story. Under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, the Medes and Persians united to form the Achaemenid Empire, known as the First Persian Empire. At its zenith, the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus River to North Africa, encompassing many major biblical regions, including Israel, Babylon, and Egypt. Persia's significance extends beyond its military and territorial might. It lies in how God used it to fulfill his promises to the Israelites. The Babylonian Empire, led by King Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Jerusalem in 586 BC, destroyed the temple, and exiled the people of Judah. The Israelites remained in Babylonian captivity for 70 years, as prophesied by Jeremiah. Then came Cyrus the Great, a Persian king who conquered Babylon in 539 BC, and everything changed. The book of Ezra begins with Cyrus's decree, allowing the Israelites to return to their land and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This event is recorded in Ezra 1 verses 1 to 4, where Cyrus proclaims, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah." Cyrus, a pagan king, was named over a century earlier by the prophet Isaiah as the one who would execute God's will to restore Israel. Isaiah 44 verse 28, 45:1. In a remarkable moment in biblical history, Persia, a nation outside of God's covenant, became an instrument of God's redemption for his people. This marked a transformational turning point for Israel, highlighting Persia's central role in God's divine plan. One of the most remarkable aspects of Persia's biblical legacy is the role of Cyrus the Great. In Isaiah 44 verse 28, God mentions Cyrus by name over 150 years before his birth, calling him his shepherd who will fulfill God's purposes. In Isaiah 45 verse 1, Cyrus is even referred to as God's anointed, a title usually reserved for Israelite kings. How could a foreign pagan king be called God's anointed? The answer lies in God's sovereignty and his ability to use anyone, even those outside his covenant people, to accomplish his will. Cyrus's decree to allow the Jews to return and rebuild the temple was not merely a political move. It was a prophetic fulfillment. Jeremiah had foretold that the Babylonian captivity would last 70 years. Jeremiah 25 verses 11 to 12, 29:10, and Cyrus's rise to power marked the end of that period. The rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, under Zerubbabel's leadership and with Cyrus's blessing, was a crucial step in Israel's restoration. God used Persia not only to defeat Babylon, the nation that oppressed Israel, but also to facilitate Israel's rebirth as a nation. This served as a reminder to Israel and the world that God's plan is greater than any empire, and He can use even the most unlikely figures to fulfill His purposes. Persia's role in biblical history doesn't end with Cyrus and the temple's rebuilding. The Book of Esther provides another powerful example of how God used Persia to protect His people during the reign of King Xerxes I, also known as Ahasuerus in the Bible. A plot was devised by Haman, an official in the Persian court, to annihilate the Jews in the empire. Haman's hatred for the Jews led him to manipulate the king into issuing a decree for their extermination. However, through God's providence, a young Jewish woman named Esther became the queen of Persia. Encouraged by her uncle Mordecai, Esther courageously approached the king, revealed her Jewish identity, and pleaded for her people's survival. Esther 4 verse 14 contains Mordecai's famous words to Esther, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther's intervention led to a dramatic reversal. Xerxes, upon learning of Haman's treachery, ordered his execution, and a new decree was issued allowing the Jews to defend themselves. This story, recorded in the Book of Esther, is celebrated annually during the Jewish festival of Purim as a reminder of how God used Persia, and particularly Queen Esther, to preserve the Jewish people. The story of Esther is one of divine providence and protection. Once again, Persia, though a foreign empire, became an instrument through which God's people were saved. God's hand was evident throughout the story, using the Persian Empire as a backdrop for this miraculous deliverance of the Jews from annihilation. This further illustrates how Persia, though not part of God's covenant people, continued to play a crucial role in the unfolding of His plan. Persia wasn't merely a passive observer. It was an active participant in ensuring the survival of Israel, a nation destined to bring forth the Messiah. The Bible not only speaks of Persia's historical role, but also places Persia at the heart of prophetic visions concerning the future of world empires and God's ultimate plan for humanity. One of the most compelling examples is found in the book of Daniel. Daniel, a Jewish prophet during the Babylonian exile, served in the courts of both the Babylonian and Persian empires. In Daniel, we encounter several visions revealing the rise and fall of empires, including Persia. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon dreams of a giant statue made of various materials, each symbolizing a world empire. The statue's silver chest and arms represent the Medo-Persian Empire, which would succeed Babylon as the dominant power in the ancient world. Later, in Daniel 7, Daniel himself has a vision of 4 beasts, representing 4 successive empires. The second beast, a bear raised on one side, represents the Medo-Persian Empire, symbolizing its dual nature, the combined strength of the Medes and Persians. This empire would be vast, and its expansion, especially under Cyrus, would forever alter history. Another significant vision involving Persia is found in Daniel 8, where the prophet sees a ram with 2 horns, symbolizing the Medes and Persians, charging in all directions, conquering vast territories. However, the vision also includes a goat with a prominent horn, symbolizing Greece and its king, Alexander the Great, who eventually conquers the Persian Empire. These visions place Persia at the heart of God's prophetic timeline, showing that the rise and fall of empires were not mere historical accidents, but part of God's divine plan. Persia's time of influence was prophesied to give way to Greece's rise, but during Persia's reign, God's people experienced deliverance and restoration, fulfilling the prophecies of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. Though the Persian Empire fell to Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC, its influence persisted during the New Testament era. By the time of Jesus' birth, the Persian Empire had been succeeded by the Greek and later Roman empires. However, Persia's cultural, governmental, and administrative legacy left a lasting impact on the ancient world. One of the more enigmatic connections between Persia and the New Testament is the story of the Magi, the wise men who visited the infant Jesus in Matthew 2. Many scholars believe that the Magi were likely from the Persian region and may have been Zoroastrian priests, part of an ancient Persian religious tradition that practiced astrology and interpreting omens. The Magi's journey to worship the newborn king of the Jews underscores Persia's enduring connection to the biblical story. Even after the fall of the Persian Empire, Persian wisdom traditions continued to influence the ancient Near East, and it was Persian scholars who recognized the star's significance heralding Jesus' birth. Moreover, Persia's legacy of tolerance toward various cultures and religions set the stage for the spread of Judaism and ultimately Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. The Achaemenid Persian Empire was known for allowing its subjects to maintain their religious practices, a policy that influenced later empires, including Rome. This environment of religious freedom contributed to the flourishing of Jewish communities throughout the region and laid the groundwork for the gospel's eventual spread. As we conclude this exploration of Persia's biblical role, it's essential to consider Iran's future in light of biblical prophecies. Many scholars and theologians believe that Iran, identified in biblical prophecy as Persia, will play a crucial role in end-time events. One of the most significant prophecies involving Persia is found in Ezekiel 38-39, where the prophet describes a coalition of nations that will one day come against Israel in the last days. Among these nations is Persia, which will join forces with Gog of Magog and others in a massive battle known as the War of Gog and Magog. This prophecy, often seen as a yet-to-occur event, depicts a final confrontation between the forces of evil and God's people, with Israel at the conflict center. While the exact nature and timing of this war remain debated, the inclusion of Persia, modern-day Iran, in this prophecy suggests that Iran's influence in the region will continue to hold spiritual significance in the end times. Additionally, Daniel's prophecies about the rise and fall of empires, including Persia, highlight a broader theme of God's sovereignty over the nations. Persia's role in biblical prophecy shows that no empire, regardless of its power, is beyond God's control. God raises nations and brings them down, all according to his divine plan. As we observe modern-day events in the Middle East, including tensions between Iran and Israel, it's crucial to remember that these events are part of a much larger story. A story that began in the Bible's pages and will culminate in the fulfillment of God's promises. The story of Persia, modern-day Iran, in the Bible is a remarkable example of how God can use even the most unlikely nations to fulfill his divine purposes. From the descendants of Japheth through Madai to the rise of Cyrus the Great, Persia played a pivotal role in biblical history. From Israel's restoration to the protection of the Jewish people in the Book of Esther. But Persia's significance doesn't end with its historical role. The prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, and Ezekiel remind us that Persia was part of God's larger plan, not only for the past nations, but also for the future. Iran's place in biblical prophecy points to its continued role in the unfolding events leading to the end times. As we look at the modern world, especially the tensions involving Iran and Israel, it's essential to approach these events with a biblical perspective. God's sovereignty over the nations means that every kingdom, empire, and leader is part of his plan. The story of Persia is a testament to the fact that God can use even foreign powers to fulfill his promises and bring about his ultimate plan for salvation. Persia, now Iran, continues to have a profound influence on the world stage, and its connection to the Bible reminds us that history is more than the rise and fall of empires. It is the unfolding of God's plan for the redemption of his people and the world.